Good evening, everyone, and I would like to welcome everyone to the regular council meeting of April 22nd, 2025. I will be filling in for Mayor Arsenault while he recovers from surgery. So this evening, we will start with the acknowledgement of treaties of peace and friendship. And we would like to begin by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is the traditional unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq peoples. This territory is covered by the treaties of peace and friendship, which Wolastoqiyik, Mi'kmaq, and Passamaquoddy peoples first signed with the British Crown in 1726. The treaties did not deal with surrender of lands and resources, but in fact recognized Mi'kmaq and Wolastoqiyik title and established the rules for what was to be an ongoing relationship between nations. I'd like to reaffirm the oath of office. We do hereby accept the office of council and will diligently, faithfully, and impartially discharge to the best of our ability the duties of the office as may be imposed upon us by law. Okay. And now we will have a moment of reflection. Councillor Burke.
This moment in time, we'd ask everyone to remember Alexander Mullally, formerly of Lorne, Janice Hickey, formerly of Lorne, Winfred Levine, formerly of Lorne, Alfreda Mullally of Lorne, Arnold Guitar of Beldoon, Daryl Guitar of Beldoon, and Kirk Lapointe of New Mills. We ask for a moment of silence in their memory. Thank you.
And now we have the adoption of the agenda. There are is there changes, I believe?
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. No, there's no changes to the agenda. However, we did have one presentation that was expected from the Chaleur Service Commission. They're not able to attend, but we do have the resolution that they had on the agenda still. If there's any questions or comments on the issue that we need to run through Yvonne or Marcel, they are available. But this is the exact same request that Council has approved other times, so it should be status quo.
Can I get a mover, please?
Motion M 2025-04-22-38 that the agenda be adopted as presented.
Can I have a seconder?
I'll second.
On the motion? Those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Motion passed. We have a statement of conflict of interest. If there is any conflicts, please see Landon. Okay, and now the adoption.
Motion M 2025-04-23-39 that the minutes of the Committee of the Whole meeting of March 3rd, 2025, the special meeting of March 4th, 2025, the regular meeting of March 17th, 2025, and the special meeting of March 31st, 2025 be adopted as presented.
Can I get a seconder?
I'll second.
On the motion, everyone in favor? Say aye. Opposed? Motion passed. We have presentations, petitions, and delegations. Presentation from Ellen Paquette and Arsenault.
Okay, so what I'll be presenting today are the financial statements of the Village of Beldoon for the year ended December 31st, 2024. If we can start at page 2. Page 2 is the independent auditor's report. It's our report that we give to the village. This report is divided into 4 sections. The first section is the opinion section. And this is where we give our opinion as auditors on the statements. And if you look at the second paragraph, it states, in our opinion, the accompanying consolidated financial statements present fairly in all material respect the financial position of the Village of Belledune as at December 31st, 2024. What this means is that we looked at the numbers in the statements and we found that everything looked good and we didn't find any discrepancies, no errors. Secondly, is the basis of opinion. In order for us to come up with the opinion, we have to follow Canadian General Accepted Auditing Standards. We have a lot of procedures that we have to undertake in order to get to our opinion, like sampling and analyses and a lot of questioning. And which makes the basis for our opinion. That's the work we do. And then the third, there's the responsibility of management that basically states that ultimately it's the management of the village that are responsible for the statements, which brings me to the fourth point, the auditor's responsibility. Our responsibility is to give the opinion on the statements. Now, if we look at the numbers on page 4, it's the consolidated statements of operations. And this will give the operations, the yearly results of the village from January 1st to December 31st, 2024. The first column is the budget. It's your budget for the year. Second column is the 2024 actual. These are the actual figures for 2024. And the third column is the 2023, is the result of last year, if you want to compare. So the first section is the revenues. So revenues, if I look at the actual 2024, there was 4.3 million in warrant assessment, 178,000 in unconditional grants, services provided to other governments 60,000, sale of services for 92,000, other revenue from own sources for 75,000, and then there's conditional transfers from other governments 811,000. There's an $8 in other transfers, and then you have the water and sewer, sale of services 38,000, other revenue from own sources 21,000. Money taken from the gas tax fund, there's 7,400 there. Revenue from interest, that's the interest you made on all your reserve funds, $162,000. And then there's miscellaneous 10,000. So for the year 2024, the total revenue for the village was $5,794,724. Then we have to subtract the expenditures. So expenditures to general government, 1.1 million, protective services, 1.1 million, transportation, 2.2 million, environmental health, 271,000, environmental development would be 483,000, recreation and cultural, 708,000, fiscal services, 64,000, and water and sewer, 92,000. So all the expenditures added up amount to 6,068,463. So if we take the revenues less expenses, it's actually a deficit for 2024, a loss of $273,738 for the year. Now, this figure here is what we call the PSAB loss. It's the government asks, there's a special accounting method for the government. It's called PSAB, and that's the PSAB accounting. Now, if we want to look at the surpluses or loss for funding purposes that you guys use for your budgets, we go to page 18. And on page 18, which is note 17, we do a reconciliation, and what we do here is, if you look at the top line, 2024 annual surplus deficit per PSAB, and the total of the loss of 273,739 is there. This is the total. So we split it between all the different funds, and then we break it down by fund. So if we look at the second column, which is the general operating fund, your general fund, the annual surplus, it was actually a surplus for the general fund according to PSAB, 508,775 for the year. We start with that number, and then we do the adjustments to take into consideration items that we would use for fund accounting. Like, for instance, The second previous year's surplus in PSAP, that doesn't count, but in fund accounting, for funding purposes, we add that to the surplus, the 33,060. That's the surplus from 2 years ago, so we add it. And then the big items there, the capital expenditures here, it counts as an expense, $176,000. And then the long-term debt principal repayments also is an expense, $187,000. So if we take into consideration all the adjustments, there's $297,884 in adjustments. So that leaves us with a surplus in the general operating fund of $210,891. Now we do the same thing, and that number, 210,891, is the number that's going to appear in 2 years in your budget. And it's the same thing with water and sewer operating fund. We do the same exercise, and you're left with a surplus of $8,293. Are there any questions on that section? I know that's an important.
If I may, on page 4. You know, you're showing in 2024 you have conditional transfers from other governments at $811,895.
Yes.
How is that number established? What does that number represent?
What is there? It's this is for you had a project, you repaired a provincial road. That's a revenue from you got the province gave you money for that road. Yeah. Yes, that's what it is. Yeah. And when it's a road from the province, it's not one of your roads. So if it would have been one of the Beldunes road, it would have went into assets. But since it's a provincial road, it's a revenue from the province, and then you have an expense to offset it. Yeah. Now, if we go on to page 5 is the other important statement. Really, it's the consolidated statement of financial position. It's a snapshot of the village at December 31st, 2024 and compared to 2023. So you have your financial assets. So at December 31st, 2024, cash and long-term investments, so that's all the money that you have in your bank accounts and your term deposits, $4.3 million. Accounts receivable, which is the money that was owed to the village as at December 31st, $37,000. Then there's due from federal government and agencies, which is mainly the HST return, $91,000 that was due to the village. And there's a due from provincial government and its agencies, $808,000. That was the grant to do the road, the provincial road. That was not yet received at December 31st, but it was receivable. So you have total financial assets, $5,280,487. Now, the flip side of that is the liabilities. That's the money that the village owes. You got accounts payable and accrued liabilities, $731,000. Deferred revenue, which is the amount left in the gas tax account, you have for $789,000. And then the long-term debt, which are your debentures, $1.7 million. So the total liabilities, $3,225,086. Which leave you with net assets, which means if you are to take all the money in the bank account, plus if everybody that owes you money paid you, and you paid all your debt with it, you would be left with $2,055,401. It's an increase of almost $500,000 from last year. But of course, you have to add to that, that's not the full story, because there's non-financial assets. You have your tangible capital assets, which is the roads, equipment, this building is in there, $33 million, and that's at cost. And then there's the accumulated amortization. So every year what we do, we depreciate those assets depending on the length of the life of the asset. For instance, a building would be over 40 years. So you have $20 million for depreciation, which leaves us with $12 million net in capital assets. Then you add to that property held for resale, $139,000, and prepaid expenses, $122,000. So you have $12,700,000 in non-financial assets, which leaves the village with an accumulated surplus $14,848,269, and this accumulated surplus is all the surpluses and deficits over the life of the village, all accumulated. It's that number there, 14 million. So those really the statements of financial position and the statements of operation are the two really important statements. All the rest, the other statements, it's all the same. Same information in a different ways, the cash flow statements and the change in net asset. I'm not going to spend time over those. And then after that, there's all the different notes that give more details on the statements. That's any questions?
I think we're good. Any questions? Okay, I thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you.
You too, thank you. So our second presentation will not be here, so now we have statements of members of council, and that would be Councillor Burke.
Three members of council attended the UMNB conference on March 26th and 27th in Fredericton. Just to make the public aware of what transpired during that meeting, I made a summary, I guess. This report is to confirm the importance of the Village of Beldoon being an active supporting member of the Union of Municipalities of New Brunswick. The Council of the Village of Beldoon sent 3 representatives to this convention, so our village would be well represented. This message would be clear to our government and to those who worked on our behalf to have the Premier and ministers in contact with the local officials who make daily decisions for their municipalities. The information and being able to discuss municipal business face-to-face with the provincial decision makers was a very positive and informative day and a half. The union represents 50 of 77 municipalities in the province, and that represents 82% of the population of New Brunswick. This organization has worked very hard to make our needs known to the government and to organizing events such as this for the representatives of the municipalities to be able to discuss their individual issues with those government officials. The day began with presentations on property assessment, infrastructure needs, housing for the homeless, and ambulance services. These presentations confirm that fiscal reform is a priority because the government has allotted $6.1 million for the local governments, $12.5 million for housing infrastructure, and $62 million for the Community Building Fund. Many municipalities are faced with budget issues growing with no solutions on how to cover increased costs. Property tax continues to be the main source of revenues, with the taxpayer covering 75 to 90% of all costs associated with the annual budget. Many municipalities are facing staffing issues and an aging workplace. Presentations with questions to follow were done by 3 major party leaders in the provincial presence at this workshop. Leader of the Green Party, David Coons, covered various topics and issues concerning environment, deficit, public transportation, NB Power, and Mediville, who supply a provincial ambulance service. Opposition interim leader, Glenn Savoy, discussed tariffs, formal fiscal reform, tax assessment, housing, and homelessness. Premier Susan Holt confirmed that fiscal reform is very important for New Brunswick. Property tax assessment needs to be competitive. Tariffs will impact businesses in New Brunswick. The government has dollars available for new housing, and an Atlantic free zone would benefit all 3 Atlantic provinces. The Minister of Health, Dr. John Doran, spoke on the issues affecting our healthcare system. He confirmed that there are 10 new doctors in training in New Brunswick, and there will be 10 more for 2026. He spoke on recruitment of doctors for municipalities and recommended that there are specific options that all municipalities can do to attract doctors or nurse practitioners to their communities. Our provincial contract with Mediville will expire in 2027. It was confirmed that our association, who is affiliated with the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, has sent a list of priorities for New Brunswick for the organization to bring forward to the federal level. These priorities include municipal engagement, support for local growth within the communities, investment in infrastructure, and homelessness. During the evening, the social event was held where local municipal officials could speak directly with the Premier and over a dozen ministers who were in attendance. I had the opportunity to discuss issues with Premier Susan Holt and the Minister of Economic Development, John Herron. This direct contact with these officials was very positive. I can confirm that the issues I brought forward have been met, and I do wish to thank the Premier and the Minister for their assistance in contacting and addressing the needs I brought forward on behalf of our local businesses. I can confirm without these types of informal gatherings, there would not have been the very successful conclusion to establishing contact for the local businesses, and I can confirm that the local businesses have contacted me and are very thankful in how and who contacted them. I do also wish to advise that there are ongoing discussions with various businesses who are into discussions with the Port of Beldoon and NB Power. These decisions are important for future development within our community, for economic development for the municipality and the region. I will close with extending my sincere appreciation to First Nations representative Chief Terry Richardson and Councillor Jim Richardson, who continue to work on behalf of all municipalities in our region. I would also mention that their Rogers television program, The Gathering Place, highlights many local businesses and municipal personalities who have a great influence of knowledge of many of the issues that are stumbling blocks for our region. This report is intended to make sure the public is aware that we as a council are concerned on many of the issues that have plagued our municipality for many years. Meeting with various ministers, housing consultants, developers, businesses, and individuals are ongoing. The issues will take time and dedication to address. However, none of the problems will be from lack of effort. Sincerely, Ron Burke, Councillor, Village of Beldoon.
Thank you for that, Councillor Burke. Any councillors want to respond? We're good? Okay. We will move now to the financial reports.
Thank you, Your Worship. So for the financial reports, in our general operating fund, we had a balance carried forward at the end of February 2025 of $980,964.59. We had e-transfers totaling $76,963,097. Direct deposit from the province of New Brunswick, $401,716.24. And we had an interest revenue of $3,448.32. Checks issued from March 1st to 31st were $1,223.43. We had a direct payment of $90,140.69. Direct payment from Service New Brunswick of $10. Direct payment for WorkSafe compensation at $2,890.76. Bank charges of $51.91. Outstanding checks for February was $102,411.67, and for March 2025, $22,929.89. Account balances at the end of March 31st, 2025 total $1,131,294.57. Total capital reserve balance for March 31st was $2,995,538.56. Capital operating reserve account balance of $230,158.78, and the gas tax fund balance of $768,261.41. Accounts payable as of March 2025 are $19,338.14, and accounts receivable as of March 2025 are $9,375.50. There's motion 40 to accept the financial reports.
Motion M 2025-04-22-40 that the financial report be accepted as presented and the accounts payable be paid.
May I have a seconder, please,
I'll second it.
on the question? All those in favor? Aye. Motion passed. Now we have motions and resolutions. 9.1, may I get a mover?
M 2025-04-22-41, whereas Mr. Paul Mazeroll and Mrs. Carol Mazeroll would like to build a new cottage which will replace an existing travel trailer located on the property bearing PID 50117993 with a new one, whereas the property bearing PID number 50117993 has no frontage on the municipal public street as shown on the road designation map for the village of Beldoon, enclosed within the bylaw 1701-2008, entitled A Bylaw to Adopt the Rural Plan of the Village of Beldoon. Whereas under Section 4.5 of the Rural Plan, it is proposed that the erection of any building on a lot that has no direct frontage on a municipal public street shall be referred to council for approval. Whereas the council can prohibit the erection of any building in respect of which, in the opinion of council, satisfactory arrangements have not been made for the supply of electrical power, water, sewage, streets, or other services or facilities, be it resolved that the council of the village of Beldoon agreed to the construction of a new cottage to replace the existing travel trailer on the property owned by Paul and Carol Mazeroll and bearing PID number 50117993 with the following conditions. The portion of Waterfront Drive which is not maintained by the municipality is not suitable for a public street. The municipality of Beldoon will not upgrade or maintain this section of the street. All maintenance services, improvements, and snow removal services are the responsibility of the property owners. The garbage will not be collected along the portion of the Waterfront Drive which is not maintained by the municipality. It will have to be brought up to the municipal portion of Dr. Ellis Lane.
Can I get a seconder?
I'll second.
On the motion? All those in favor?
Aye. Yeah.
Motion passed. Strategic planning consultant, can I get a mover, please?
M 2504-22-42, that the Council of the Village of Beldoon award the contract for strategic planning, and it's an issue we haven't decided on, but I'm going to recommend that Doug Griffith, based on the 13 Ways Incorporated in accordance with, so that the Council of the Village of Beldoon award the contract for strategic planning to Gordon Griffith, 13 Ways Incorporated, in accordance with the submitted proposal.
That's Doug Griffiths, right? Okay, can I have a seconder?
I'll second it.
On the motion, those in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion passed. Now, financial statement, please, 9.3.
M 2025-04-22-43, that the draft 2024 audited financial statements prepared and presented by Alan Paquette and Arsenault be accepted as presented.
Can I get a seconder?
I'll second it.
On the motion, everyone, say aye. Aye. Motion passed. 9.4, please.
M 2504-22-44, that Alan Paquette and Arsenault be appointed as Beldoon's financial auditors for 2025, for the year 2025.
May I have a seconder?
I'll second that one too.
On the motion, those in favor? Aye. Motion passed. General correspondence?
We had the SPCA report for March 2025, the Shallur Regional Service Commission building permit report from March 2025, Universal Rails track inspection report, the Shallur Regional Service Commission, the RCMP quarterly report also came in. For invitations, we also had an invite for council included in your packages from the Yves Pelletier Classic 3-on-3 hockey tournament, which council contributed a donation or a grant to. And that's it for correspondence.
Okay, there is no closed session, so I ask for an adjournment.
M 2025-04-22-45, that the meeting be adjourned at 7:32 PM.
Can I get a seconder?
I'll second it.
Motion? Those in favor?
Aye.
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 Meeting adjourned.